The making of The Little Mermaid, Ariel's undersea adventure. Please welcome Imagineers Crump, Lisa Girolami, and Larry Nikolai.
It is.
Feels good to sit down.
It does.
It does.
Okay, who's written Little Mermaid? Woo! Awesome. Who hasn't? Okay, go write it. We'll wait.
You need to do that today?
The lights are bright. It's hard to see you.
Let's talk about
The Little Mermaid.
The Little Mermaid.
Can you turn your microphone?
Is this one off?
Yeah.
Look at these strangers in the night.
Mine's on.
Let me find out. You guys have had it for a while.
You're on.
Oh, there, I'm on. Okay.
Are you on?
I'm on, right? Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, of course, the title of our presentation is now part of our...
Can't hear?
Still can't hear?
You're on, but it's not loud enough.
Should I shout?
Yes.
Hello, hello, hello.
That's off.
Yay!
So anyway, so Ursula was going into this bar.
Now you can. Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Now part of our world, the making of The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure, and I get the clickers. Your hosts, Crump, who is our production designer, Lisa Girolami, our producer, and I was the creative director of this fantastic attraction for the last 3 years. So, once upon a time, there was a Little Mermaid. You all remember now, of course, 1989. Let's go back one. 1989, The Little Mermaid came out, and it kind of heralded a new era for Disney animation. It's the first of the modern classics that came out, and it has ended up being, of course, a perennial favorite across the entire company and with all of its fans. And I always like to point out that when Disneyland opened in 1955, Walt Disney's first feature film, Snow White, was only 18 years old. 18 years old sounds like a lot, but you know what? It's not. Not at all, because when we get to here, when The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure opened, and Disney California Adventure in 2011, the classic film The Little Mermaid was 22 years old. Took a while.
Who feels old now?
So what we're going to talk about today is, here's why it takes so long.
I wanna see 'em dancing.
It always starts with the story. That's always the most important thing. We were taught by our story people from many years past, our classic Disney story people, that if you get the story first, everything else will follow. In this case, The Little Mermaid, being an hour-and-a-half film, had to come down to 5.5 minutes. So we had to figure out how were we going to do that, and we decided to hinge it on the musical numbers. So we took all of the classic musical numbers and staged them in succession around that. And of course, it always starts with, you know, the concept sketch, and that can take a while. You guys were there before me. Chris and Lisa were on it for 4 years. I was only on it for 3.
Only 3.
Talk about the beginning. Only 3.
Well, if you've been on the attraction, you can kind of see from these first sketches that it takes a long time to really figure out how you're going to stage something. So, you know, the little Ariel and Flounder swimming up there ended up in a different projection environment. You can kind of see sort of how the evolution of that scene worked.
We had a finite space to work with, and of course, you know, we would have taken much more space because we always do. We always want to, but it was certainly a challenge to have you travel through her world and see as much as you could possibly see of her environments and make them all feel really good, like you were really there. But But we start with a whole bunch of chicken scratches on paper.
And even though we're working with a property like The Little Mermaid, we are still starting with a blank piece of paper here because we literally have to bring that world into our world. We have to decide what it is we're going to build and how we're going to stage it and how you're going to see it, just like in any motion picture. And that really is starting from a blank page. So it starts with story, just like the movie. And here's a few more. And by the way, these pictures that we're showing you here, we tried to pick out as many pictures that people have not seen yet. You've all seen publicity for this attraction for probably the last 2 years. So some of these are new, and we just thought they'd be fun to share with you, especially this early process here. So different things are explored along the way. And then we start getting more serious. That's when we dive in. That was what you looked like you were going to say something, sorry.
No, it was the last slide with Ursula with her tentacles going over the ride vehicles. There were some pretty grand ideas early on. There was this one meeting in particular. Can you go back to that?
Yeah, I'd love to go back to that one.
So if you see the tentacle going over the vehicle, so there were these discussions about, yeah, it'd be really cool if Ursula's tentacle came up and it slapped the vehicle and made it spin around. So we're sitting in this meeting, and one of our ride engineers, who's been around a long time, done a lot of shows, he leans over and he goes, "Are we really going to have to do that?" I looked at him and I said, I don't think so.
Which he breathed a sigh of relief.
So yeah, at this point, kind of the rubber hits the road, and we start to really kind of feel the environment, and we start to really kind of imagine what those show spaces, each scene is going to look like, and we really start to get a feel for how much we're going to get to do with each scene, how many figures, how many props, how many show set pieces, things like that can kind of come together, and then the flow of the story you can start to see because we storyboard out the whole experience.
These particular drawings are kind of an interesting thing just because they were the first ones that I did on the attraction, because scene 5, the big scene with Under the Sea, that was going to have the most characters, so we had to stage that first off and really start figuring out what that was going to do. And you're seeing some very rough things here. We usually draw them in blue line first because it's just a rough animator's drawing. And the funny thing was, just before opening, I brought these drawings into the scene and I looked at them again, and they were like, with very minor exceptions, exactly the way it ended up. And this was 3 years before that. So there was some nice continuity going on there.
Certainly we had scenes that changed quite a bit, but you're right, that vision kept all the way through until we opened. It was pretty amazing. And think about that too, if you look at the film, in the Under the Sea scene, there are many, many quick cuts and things like that because the song is very lively, and what we had to do is create a whole environment. And if you look at the movie and try and take it right from the movie, there is no relationship between this character, where's this character standing versus this character, swimming, I should say. And so Larry had to kind of create that whole environment, and there are lots of things that he had to do, like create the backside of a character that you haven't seen because it was never drawn that way. So it was really a good challenge to bring this into 3 dimensions.
The other challenge we have as Imagineers is the fact that in the movie, especially in this particular number, Under the Sea, some of those characters literally appear for 1 or 2 seconds, and that's the only time you see them. But we live with them for years at a time, and we have to actually flesh them out and, as Lisa was saying, determine what they look like from every angle. So the next step after those rough sketches, which there are many of, is of course going on to something a little more refined, where we're actually designing now and establishing what the audience is going to see. So these are clearly, a little further along in the road there, where we've got the characters' attitudes and we've got some staging going on. And now these follow us throughout production. And we constantly compare to these. And you're going to see as we go through these slides, these particular scenes are going to keep popping up because you can see them as they progress. So here's Ursula's lair and Kiss the Girl, and of course our finale. We could talk about the finale a little. It's a little bit different from the movie.
Yes, does everybody know how the finale was in the movie? Where did it take place? On the ship, and it was the wedding, right?
And it was daytime.
And it was daytime. So we're doing a classic dark ride, dark attraction. And we thought, well, you know, it's not easy to do a fully bright daytime scene when you're in an attraction like that. So we took the liberty to move that story to the evening's reception back at Prince Eric's Castle. And when I say liberty, we were way down the road. We were building a model of this, and we invited Ron and, was it Ron and John that came over that day?
It was Ron and John.
Yeah. We invited the directors of the original animated film to come over, and, you know, we said, hey, come over, see what we're doing, you know, because there's a lot of back and forth between different companies at Disney, out of respect, certainly, but also out of just, you know, peer review. You know, we'd like to see what they have to say. So they came over, and then all of a sudden we all thought, oh my God, we changed the end of their movie. We are so in trouble. And they walked through, and I was looking for a fire extinguisher or something to put their hair on fire out. But what actually happened was they looked at it, and I don't remember if it was Ron or John, but one of them said, you know, we should have done that. We should have done a nighttime scene. And we were, oh my God, we were so happy about that, because it's like, you know, I had those visions of going back to the bosses going, I need more money because we have to change the scene. Oh, that stuff we're already building, we have to rebuild it. But it all worked out really well. And the nice thing, you know, talk a little bit about Scuttle too, since you see him in that scene. The fact that,
well, our little friend Scuttle there, yeah, he's kind of a bookend in the attraction. You see him at the very beginning. Those of you who have ridden it have seen him. He starts the story, and we decided that he should end the story as well. So he gives a little bit of comment as you're leaving the attraction.
Another side note, Larry and I have done a lot of projects together, and we've learned the hard way about trying to do daylight and dark rides. You see everything. It just doesn't work.
And if you notice, when you leave Under the Sea and you head toward Ursula's lair, that begins what's called the blacklight scenes in the attraction. So everything before that is white light, you know, regular light with colors and things like that. But once you hit Ursula, it's black light through the rest of the scene. So it does take on kind of a darker tone in Ursula's lair and coming up to the surface. But then also, once you get to the Kiss the Girl scene and through the rest, it takes on a kind of a romantic, you know, much more moody in a good way, you know, kind of look. So it's really, really nice to end it that way. I think Kiss the Girl, if we were, you know, certainly it's evening time and we take it on through, that creates that really kind of cinematic, romantic mood. So I think it was a really good choice. But next time you go through, I'm sure if you were wearing white shirts, you would know when you went into black light, because you kind of glow. And
everyone loves fireworks. So we had to have some fireworks. We just want to make a very magical Disney ending to the attraction. So it's nighttime, the royal couple are there, we have our fireworks going. So always, Chris and I have always championed the idea of doing a large scale, as in 1 to 12, 1 inch to the foot model of our attractions, because it just answers so much from color and from being able to get down and look into the thing as if you're actually on the attraction. And it follows us, yeah, it follows us throughout.
Yeah, especially.